This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome to the Elevate Construction Podcast, where we distill industry-leading concepts into understandable and implementable content. My name is Jason Schroeder, and today's podcast is about afternoon Foreman Huddles. Please share this with anyone running a project, anyone that would consume this information and allow it to make them a little bit better, who would benefit from this and appreciate this information. We really appreciate when you share these podcasts so that we can get the message out and protect our people and make the experience that we have in construction just that much more remarkable. Let me ask you a question. Why would you want to listen today? Well, here's why. Have you ever had difficulty implementing lean? Do you want to have effective huddles and meetings? Do you want to stop fighting fires? Do you want everyone to head in the same direction? Do you feel like you could be better aligned with your foreman? Do you work too many hours with little return and you want to be home with your family when it's the appropriate time? Well, if any of these things resonate even a little bit, then you will want to listen to this podcast today. So let me first tell you about a quote. Every foreman should know what winning looks like daily. Every foreman should know what winning looks like daily. And the winning part, I got that from a book called Own the Gap, which is a lean management system, a scaling system for companies and corporations and groups that allows people, organizations, groups, teams to know daily what winning looks like. And then the principle or the precept in the book, the concept of the book is that we need to own that gap. We need to close that gap from where we are to what we should be doing, which is what winning looks like daily. So let me read that quote one more time. Every foreman should know what winning looks like daily. And if we're not winning, we need to return to green. If we have a delta there, if we didn't win, if we miss some of our commitments, if we're not tracking to certain things, if we're having difficulties, if we have roadblocks, we need to see that so we can own the gap and get back to winning. So let me tell you a story. I learned about lean from the book 2 Second Lean by Paul Akers. I still think that is an industry book that everyone should read. It's a fantastic book. Paul Akers did a fantastic job. And even though he talks about manufacturing, it applies to construction. So I was given that book to read at the Cancer Center, and some lean professionals came to the project. This was the first exposure I had ever had to it. And they taught us how to implement the last planner system with some Excel templates that we were able to use for that system. So we started on the Cancer Center implementing a morning foreman huddle. It took about 30 minutes. The workers and the foreman would get to the site at approximately the same time, but we would talk to them about roadblocks, about coordination for the day, any needs that they might have, and I think it was fairly successful. The workers would be setting up at the same time as they were doing it, and on a weekly basis, we had our last planners, our foremen, the last people in the planning cycle. They would write down on these Excel templates, printed out of course, what their plan for the next week was going to be. We would plug all of that information into the Excel template. We would coordinate it in a last planner meeting, in a weekly meeting for the creation of the weekly work plan, and then we would track our percent plan complete. This project was pretty successful. It finished on time and won a number of safety awards, actually. So I feel like it was a really good experiment. Going from there to the research laboratory, that experience taught me that we needed to expand these current systems. So in the contract, we bought out the last planner system, the meetings, the morning huddles, everything that we needed to implement this system. So at the research laboratory, we had morning huddles, but it was before the workers came on site. So that was one of the modifications. For instance, for concrete, everyone met at 5 o'clock. Then the worker huddle was at 5:30. We had them in the office because the office trailer was close enough to the project site to where they only had to walk 100 feet out there to get to work. So that worked. They were able to stand in a room led by the assistant superintendents for that scope of work for that geographical area, and that we were able to reference two screens on the wall, one of them which had the plans and the model, and the other one which had the agenda, the typical standard information that we wanted to cover every day. Then when we broke that huddle, everyone walked out to the worker huddle. We oriented the workers based off of the information that we had, and we went off to work, and it was very, very successful. Also, on this research laboratory project, it was so large that there was a point where we had to break up the huddles into geographical areas. So the interior and the exterior were separate huddles run by the assistant superintendents with their own designated foreman. That was something that we bought out in the exhibits in their work orders, in their work authorizations. So we were contracted to that behavior, and I felt that the system worked really well for us. I really think that it worked well. We were able to make some improvements, run the meetings more effectively. It was a fantastic experience. And as a lead superintendent, and I've mentioned this before in other podcasts, I was able to walk the day before and then text to those huddle systems things that needed to be covered. For instance, cleanliness, messages from the owner, things like that, which allowed them to go be successful, get their foreman on the same page. The worker huddles ensured that the communication, the critical communication that was supposed to come from the foreman to the workers, that was never missed. Typically in the last planner system and with foreman huddles, 50% of the people will pass on the accurate information. It's kind of like the old telephone communication game that we played as kids. You start out with a row of kids and trade partners are not kids. I'm just saying, when I was a kid, I learned this game. You would start out the line of kids with somebody saying something. By the time you got to all the way around to the end of the line, you would check to see if the message was the same, and it wasn't. Some of those same effects happen with our foreman when we send them a message and then they tell the workers that same message. So worker huddles were a nice addition to this system to make sure that communication was scaling properly to the field. So that experience went very well. When we went to the pharmacy project after the research laboratory, we had made some modifications to the system, which I think were very appropriate. We moved the foreman huddles to the afternoon. They were still in an office setting, still standing up, still with multiple screens, focused on an effective agenda. Then that would allow people, the foreman, the last planners, to go plan their work that afternoon, think about it, have their subconscious working on things over the night, and then when they came to work the next morning, they were able to come in with their workers, same time, be oriented with the team, and then go to work with a plan. There was no rerouting. I prefer this system of doing afternoon huddles so that people can hit the ground running in the morning. I do know of some projects in the industry where the foremen are meeting while the workers are setting up. I don't feel like that gains us the full productivity, because foremen being with their workers, getting people information, tools, materials, all of the things that they need to go be effective that day and helping them to set up is what a foreman should be doing. I would rather the foreman come prepared with all of the tools, everything that they need, hit the ground running with their workers, do their 25 minutes of setup, 5S'ing in the morning, and they're ready to go with a plan. If you do the huddle for that day in the morning, you run the risk of having to reroute people that have already set up. You have to communicate more and possibly go look for materials and tools that you hadn't planned for the night before. And it can be just a little bit chaotic. Now, they're effective. And if anybody chooses to do that, I think that's fine. I prefer to do them in the afternoon. And even though I advocate these systems meaning the foreman huddle being in the afternoon, some large companies where we've scaled this information continue to choose to do it in the morning, meaning there are specific job sites, specific superintendents in those companies that still want to do it in the morning. And I think that's fine. I would just like to ask all of us to consider that system where if you do it in the afternoon, you can turn in daily reports for the day, report on the cleanliness assignments for the day, address things immediately, plan for dig permits for the next day, make sure that everyone knows exactly what is happening, and then foreman can think about it, go get the tools and equipment, prepare, make sure that everything is ready for the next morning so that when everybody comes into those worker huddles, they're oriented and they know exactly what to do. They can go do their 25-minute set up and go do their work effectively. It's pretty fantastic. Now, I do want to say one thing. I do not believe that workers should go to work and just immediately have to start working. I do not believe that workers should have to go to work and just immediately start working and have to figure it out. I do very much believe in letting them have that 15, 20, 25 minutes to do training, 5S'ing, setting up their tools, doing their pre-task plans in the morning. And I'll talk about that in a future podcast, but that's kind of the overall system. So if you ever work with Jason Schroeder in what I would consider a modified last planner system, this is what it would look like. And I do want to draw your attention to the entire week. So let's say we're talking about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Typically, the system that I like to work with on a project, and this is tailored to larger projects, right? So if you're doing a smaller one, those are, usually more complex. You don't have as many resources. You need to tailor that. You need to scale that to what size project you're working on. But for a large project, $20 million plus, I like this system. On Monday morning, the workers start and we do a worker huddle and then the 25-minute crew setup. The Friday before, there was a Foreman huddle that planned Monday. So we're good to go. Okay. So you have the worker huddle and the 25-minute crew setup and you're jamming, ready to go. Typically on Mondays, I like to do in the afternoon the schedule update, meaning the planning and procurement meeting where the master schedule is updated, the procurement log or the procurement inside the schedule is updated. Basically, the master planning, the long-term planning, the overall master schedule planning is done in that meeting. And there's also a Foreman huddle where you plan for the next day. You come in on Tuesday morning and you have the worker huddle and you have the 25-minute crew setup and you're ready to go. In the afternoon, at the same time as you typically have the Foreman huddle, I would consider having a weekly tactical meeting or your last planner meeting or your weekly work planning meeting or what used to be called the sub meeting, but I don't like calling it that anymore. But basically a 30, 45-minute hour long meeting, and it can be up to 90 minutes, but I would recommend an hour where you go through the processes of the last planner system to create a weekly work plan up to 2 Fridays from that meeting, meaning you want to make sure that you have statused the next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and that you have the entire next week planned for your weekly work plan. That's the system that I like because it allows you to check on the current week's progress and plans the entire next week. So then you also cover some things that plan the next day. You come into your worker huddle in the morning, your 25-minute crew setup, and then your Foreman huddle. Then on Thursday, you come in for your worker huddle, 25-minute crew setup, and your Foreman huddle. And then you go on Friday, you come in for your worker huddle, your 25-minute crew setup, and then your Foreman huddle, which plans for the following Monday. And if you were able to look at this in a visual, basically what happens is your long-term strategic planning for your master schedule then educates your Tuesday meeting where you create your weekly work plan, which then educates every single Foreman huddle for the next 5 working days. And those Foreman huddles educate the next morning for all of the workers to make sure that everybody is in their proper place. Everyone is in their proper place. Everyone knows what to do. Everyone knows what winning looks like. So this is scaling communication. This is getting the water to the end of the row. This is making sure that everyone on site knows exactly what's going on. Because I would argue that if you have a master schedule, that is only as effective as we can get that information to the workers. So it has to go from the master schedule, right, to your make-ready schedules, to your weekly work planning or your look-aheads, your weekly work planning and your look-ahead schedules, then to your day plans, and those day plans have to be communicated to the workers. So let me do that one more time. Master schedule to your make-ready schedules, to your look-aheads and your weekly work plan, to your day plan, scaled to the workers so that everybody knows the plan. We have to get that communication all the way to the workers. That is the system that I have espoused over the years, and it sounds like a lot of meetings, but if you run that system the right way, everyone on site knows what they're supposed to be doing, and there's very little variation, waste, and chaos. because everyone knows the plan. And literally, a superintendent shouldn't, but could basically stay in that office, and the project would function without him or her because everybody knows what they're doing. Now, we do want supers to have safety presence in the field, so you wouldn't do that, but you could. So to me, the mark of a great superintendent, if I know that they're running that project properly, then I know they're in a collaborative system, a collaborative last planner system where the last planners, the foremen, are making commitments, planning the work, following up, holding each other accountable in a collaborative system, and that the project runs so well and every worker, every laborer, every foreman, everybody on site knows the plan daily to the point that the superintendent could stay in the office or take vacation for 2 weeks or go do a proposal or whatever, and that project would still remain intact and stable. If a superintendent tells me, oh, I can't leave the job, I immediately know there's something wrong with the way they're running the job. If they say, oh, I just could never go away, my phone would be ringing off the hook, I've got to answer people, there's no way the trades would know what to do, then again, I know that the system isn't working. We are not scaling proper communication. So I will give you a template agenda that you can use. If you need this agenda in written form, please just reach out to me on LinkedIn. No big deal. I'll give it to you. It's totally fine. So just to recap really quickly before I do that, though, I do believe that you have to have a very nice agenda that's best case scenario printed out on the wall, on the conference room, or wherever you do these huddles. And I'll tell you why. The superintendent should not be the only person on the project that can run these meetings. If the superintendent is missing, had to go to the clinic, is on vacation, or had a family emergency, or heck, just wanted to go home early to surprise his or her spouse, the idea would be that a project engineer, PM, assistant superintendent, or anybody on that management team could walk into that office, okay, see all of the planning boards. You would see site logistics on the wall or on the online on the screens that you could pull up. You would see your planning boards preferably on the wall, 6-week look ahead, 2 boards make a 12-week look ahead. You have those on the wall. You have all of your systems, all of your visuals, everything that you need for the last planner system up on your conference room wall, and there's the agenda. So if I'm substituting for the project superintendent, I could come in there and be like, okay, first thing, everybody, we're here on time. Let's do a shout out. All right, next, let's go around the room for roadblocks. All right, next. And it's just a standard system. One of the best tricks that I've found to get superintendents to actually leave the job, to go take care of their families, to go take their vacations, and to go do a proposal or get away from the job and be able to have a work-life balance and not feel like they have to be there every day is a standard agenda, standard systems, standard visuals, a team that knows how these meetings should be run, and you leave these meetings with a day plan that anybody could follow. The project engineer, if they have all the right safety training, could follow the day plan on a Saturday. The project manager could cover for the super on Friday if there's a day plan that shows what's supposed to be done that day. Everybody knows what the plan is if you have a plan for every day that comes from the weekly work plan, which comes from the look aheads, which comes from the make ready schedule, which comes from the master schedule. So that's how that's supposed to work. I do believe that these meetings work better in the afternoon. Also, because project managers and project engineers are on the job site in the afternoon and can cover those meetings if need be, and project engineers can be in that meeting to talk about RFIs and procurement. So it's a really nice system. If you also do it in the afternoon, you can collect daily reports. There's a fail-safe system, a point of release system for daily reports, and everybody leaves with either a PDF or the day plan on a whiteboard that they can take pictures of, or something in one of the project management systems, something that says, this is the plan for tomorrow. Everybody can be ready and go be effective the next day. So without further ado, here are the things that I like to cover in a Foreman daily huddle in the afternoon. First, always start out with a shout out. Ask the team for 2 positive things. Start out with a positive. I like to first review roadblocks. What is in your way? What are the things that we need to talk about? Because I personally feel like the PPC, the percent plan complete or the percent of promises complete, tracking that system is a lagging indicator system, meaning it shows how poorly or how good we did, and then allows you to see what the root causes are. But the removal of roadblocks is a leading indicator system. If we can remove roadblocks, things that will prevent us from doing work, things that will interrupt our flow, we can be more effective. So we really need to make sure that we focus on roadblocks. So I prefer to go ahead and start out with roadblocks. Then I'll go through the rest of these pretty quickly. We need to then cover, how did we do today? Did we win? Yes or no? Did we meet our commitments or did we not? And what are the root causes? What is the plan for tomorrow? What work will be executed tomorrow? We need to review that plan and make sure that we're on the same page. Based on that work, what is our biggest safety focus for tomorrow? What logistics do we have? What is coming? When is it coming? Where will it go? And make sure that you mark the staging locations on your site logistics map and that people are very clear where that goes. Just a quick little sidebar on that. I used to have the crane operator and the forklift operators take pictures of those things and tell them, you will not stage this anywhere else. Everything has to go in its planned location. Okay. We also talk about what inspections we have tomorrow, what safety observations, what inspections we need to go focus on tomorrow with the foreman, okay? Do we have any permits? Do we have any hot work permits? Do we have any cranes for tomorrow? Do we have any weather tomorrow that we should be focused on, okay? And then we leave that meeting with a coordinated plan for the next day. I like to put that in PDF and send it out to the team, or put it on a whiteboard and it lists everything that's happening for tomorrow. It's 100% clear. I think the ultimate end is that one day any worker can go out and scan a QR code and have that drawing, have that day plan come up so that every worker can access that in the worker huddle. And we were able to do that on the pharmacy project. The idea here is that the foremen leave with all of the information in one location for what winning looks like for the next day. And it is high level. And then when they dive down, they get into their quality, they get into their safety for their crew specific items, they need to be filling out their pre-task plans that should have safety and quality, safety on the front, quality on the back, and go get specific down to the crew level in their 25-minute crew preparation where they do training, 5S'ing, cleaning, filling out their pre-task plans, orienting the crew. So the foreman huddle gets the entire project plan higher level. Then the foremen take that plan and they go do their crew preparation and they plan with their pre-task plans what that crew will do that day. Okay, so let me talk to you about the current state. This is what happens in our industry now. They don't follow this system. They say, Jason, that's too many meetings. They say, Jason, that's ineffective. That's too much time. Foremen are like, I don't want to attend meetings. This is a waste of my time. I don't want to do this. They hit the ground running in the morning, and then the superintendent has to go talk to 30 different people to align them, sometimes talking to people 2 or 3 different times. They fight fires. They go on treasure hunts to find materials. They're outside all day because they can't plan their work. Productivity is lost, and it's absolute chaos. You know, a superintendent that has to be outside all day, like I talked about before, isn't doing the right things. You know, everyone out there in the field is asking questions. Everyone's heading in different directions. There are surprises. There are silos. There's a lack of group accountability. And the reason is because everybody was not made to be on the same page through a system of going from or scaling communication from the master schedule to the make ready schedule to the look aheads to the weekly work plan to the day plan and then to the workers. If we would have just gone to these standard meetings, planned our work, made the meetings effective, and followed the system, everyone would know that. So here's the solution, and I think you're going to love this. And if you need any help, let me know. There are videos on these things. There are template agendas. They're absolutely fantastic. So I would suggest you move your foreman huddles to the afternoon to plan for the next day. Make yourself an effective and an easy and an applicable agenda that's visual on the wall that can be followed. Make sure that the rule of thumb is that everyone leaves with a day plan from that meeting. Make sure your room, your meeting area, has the systems, the infrastructure that you need to run a good last planner system. Make sure you have your planning boards. Make sure you have your site logistics plan. Make sure that you have your circle of trust, any of your grading systems, anything that people need to know in order to follow the day plan. Make sure you get those boards. Just go ahead and order them. Don't tell the project manager. It usually costs a couple $1,000s to print these things. I would say just go ahead and start. Just like we did at the Cancer Center, we weren't perfect at it. We were doing Foreman Huddles, and it just started with some basic stuff, but it got us in the plan, do, check, act cycle. We planned to do it. We did it. Then we checked to see if it was working, and then we acted or adjusted, and it improved, and then it improved, and then it improved again and again and again. And now, after doing that on 4 major projects, now I have realized that there are systems that can be scaled on an enterprise level to get everybody heading in the same direction, following the same systems, standard systems, so that we can improve from there. There is a way to effectively implement these Foreman huddles. Okay. I would also suggest, just as some tips and tricks here, is end every meeting with a plus delta. That will also reflect and help you improve those meetings. Have someone audit your meeting. If you have a second set of eyes or a third party or even a lean expert, anybody with some lean training, ask them to visit your meeting and give you suggestions on how it's going. And then make sure, again, I have to say this again, that you leave that meeting with a plan for the next day that everyone can see. So here are some invitations. Just go ahead and get started. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'll send you the agenda. I'll help you out. Also, there's a book that's fantastic called The Lean Builder, and it's on Audible. It's in print form. They do a very, very nice job of this. They recommend doing the huddles in the morning, which is totally fine. Like I said, those work as well. A little bit different terminology from what I use, but it doesn't matter. That book has done so much to get this system to click in the minds of superintendents. So go read The Lean Builder and reach out if you need help. So here are some final tips and tricks so I can close this out. Make a cool day plan. Make something that you would be proud of that says, here's the work going on. Here's the weather for tomorrow. Here are the deliveries for tomorrow. Here's the biggest safety focus. You can even put pictures of the weather forecast up there. You can have a visual of your site logistics map on that PDF that shows where deliveries are to be placed. Have fun with that. Make a cool day plan that you can leave that meeting with, that you would be proud of, that will educate and align everyone on site. Okay. I strongly recommend you read The Lean Builder. Also, here's a super important suggestion. Read Death by Meeting by Patrick Lencioni. If you read that book, you will know exactly how to run effective huddles and effective meetings. And that will get rid of the mindset of, oh, I don't want to be in too many meetings. Why are we in these meetings? You will learn from that book that meetings are effective and we need them 100% in our management systems. Also, be consistent. Make sure you standardize your systems and then adjust from there. So I hope this has been helpful. I know that's a lot of information, but again, I do want to say that at a minimum, you have to have 2 out of 3. And here's what I'm talking about. If you have a last planner meeting or a weekly work planning meeting or a subcontractor meeting, whatever you call it, the one that creates the weekly work plan, I call it the trade partner weekly tactical. That's the 1 hour long meeting. Okay. If you have that one that you can do, and you have the Foreman huddle, the 30-minute Foreman huddle every day that you can do, and a worker huddle that you can do in the morning with all the workers to align them, of those 3, I've never seen a project be as successful as they can be unless they have 2 out of 3 of those meetings. Meaning that you can create in your last planner system your weekly work plan at a single point in your week, and then every day meet with the workers on a daily basis in the morning to line them out, and you'll be successful. Or if you don't have that weekly work planning meeting, but you have your Foreman huddles and you take care of your last planner system in those meetings, and you have your Foreman huddle and your worker huddle, then you can go be effective. Or if you do your weekly work planning meeting, what I call the trade partner weekly tactical, or the last planner meeting, that hour-long meeting, and the Foreman huddles, but you don't have the worker huddles, you can be effective. You have to have 2 out of 3 because it takes a minimum of 2 out of 3 of those meetings to make sure that your project is running properly. So one more time, One more time, there is a 1 hour long meeting on average where you create the weekly work plan. There's a Foreman Huddle where you plan for the next day, and a worker huddle where you communicate the plan for that day. You have to have 2 out of 3 for those. So if this seems complicated, reach out. I know that there are a lot of people out there that really want to make the life of a superintendent simple. One time when doing training, I was asked, can you distill down what a superintendent does into like 1 or 2 or 3 things, and then we just train on that? And I kind of got a little bit upset because that's not the life of a superintendent. We have to know safety. We have to know regulations. We have to know training. We have to know cranes. We have to know rigging. We have to know how to use equipment. We have to know quality. We have to know quality systems. We have to know the drawings. We have to know scheduling. The life of a superintendent is not simple. So if you're listening to me in this podcast and you're thinking, wow, that's complex, Jason says that we should plan in a meeting the next week, and that every day we should plan the next day, and every day we should communicate to the workers what the plan is. That's a lot. That's a lot of meetings. That sounds complex. What I would say in a loving way, please don't get mad at me, that's the life of a superintendent. Nothing that we do is simple. Everything that we do is complex, and it's our job to live in that complexity so we can create simplicity for the worker. We are trying to optimize the flow of the worker and the work being installed, and if that means that we deal with some additional complexity, so be it. So, one more time, if you really, really want to be effective with the last planner system and with your huddles, you will in a meeting form your weekly work plan, then you will every day plan the next day with the foreman, and you will every day communicate in 5 or 10 minutes that plan to all of the workers on site. It is a system that works everywhere we try it. And the vision for this is that every worker on your site knows what they're supposed to be doing, what they're supposed to be installing, has the right materials, has the right information, has the right tools and equipment, knows where to go, clean, steady, safe environment, 100%, and is able to go home safe from that stable environment and basically tell their spouse, there was nothing really out of the ordinary today. I installed good quality work with good people in a good culture, but it was kind of ordinary. That's what they should be able to say. We need to optimize the flow of the worker, even if that means that we have to go espouse a system like this, which requires us at infrequent moments to go meet and plan and prepare. And that's what we do as superintendents. I'm really excited about this because, like I said, I have seen this work on my jobs. I've seen it work on other projects. I've seen it scale within 8 months throughout an entire organization, very, very large construction companies where projects stabilize by using these systems. So please take these to heart. Please, go enjoy this. Everything on the site, every meeting, the stability, the lack of firefighting, the ability for you to go home, the ability for somebody else to cover for you should bring you joy. That's the point. You make more money, you're more fulfilled, you're more successful because of these systems. They work everywhere we try it when somebody will give their whole heart and soul and follow the system. We know how to do these things. We just need to leverage each other and help each other out. So I hope this helps. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions, if you want a podcast topic, if you want to follow up, if you have questions, if you want to give me feedback, if you disagree, if you want one of the agendas that I was promising, or anything else, please reach out to me. I would be happy to help. And also, please share this podcast with anybody. Please share this podcast. So until we meet again, I really hope that you're able to go create your weekly meeting systems, that you're able to make your foreman, your last planners more effective, and that you're able to get communication all the way to the worker, which again, I just have to say, I don't think any schedule has very much value unless everyone can see it, unless everyone understands it, unless everyone can read it, unless it gets to the worker. If it gets to the worker, then our meeting systems, our last planner system, our scaling of communication is working, and we will have a fantastic project. Until then, on we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.